Hello everyone, it's Troy from Drum Percussion Studio. Today I just wanted to give some information about practice routine. It's a common question that I get and our staff gets. How long should I practice and what should I practice for how long? It's a very big question and oftentimes it's kind of misunderstood. So I kind of made an outline that might help you if this is something you struggle with figuring out how to do. So this should be somewhere between 40 and 50 minutes long, given that you have that much time to do it. If you don't have that much time, you'll shrink it. But let's go through the quadrants that you should nail at least every time you sit down to practice something. So feel free to take screenshots of these. This might be a helpful tool to come back to rather than listening to me say it over and over. So check it out. We begin with a warm-up and a review. It's broken up. It's 10 minutes broken up into 2 5-minute spaces. All right. So the warm-up, you want to pick something you can already do pretty well. And then you want to be hyper-focused on how deliberate you're doing it and stay steady and consistent as well. So this is always something that should be done to a metronome. For example, let's say you're working on 8 on a hand. It's a good basic exercise that most of our students at the studio do or they know. And you're thinking, well, how can I do it? What's the appropriate amount of time for that? Well, you set a timer on your phone or on whatever device you have. Grab your metronome, hit start, and practice along. It's something you already know how to do, so this gives you a chance to really dive in, dissect, how is the dynamic level? Is it even between my right and left hand? Are all the spaces between the notes equidistant? Am I, hitting the drum too hard? Am I using rebound effectively? This allows you to become very focused and starts to get your brain engaged with the process of the routine that you're about to undergo. All right, that 5 minutes will go by really quickly. So set a timer. Don't just start hammering away at a drum pad or whatever you're warming up on. Don't just set a timer and go. And be very, be a stickler to it. Like I said, it'll go fast, then you move on. The next 5 minutes. You want to fix something in your playing that struggles. So some would say, this is just practice. And I would say, yeah, but it's also a review. So it's something you already know how to do, but you struggle doing it. So this will kind of reinforce that. And how you want to practice this is very important. You want to practice it slowly to a metronome. As it begins to feel more comfortable, stop the metronome. Bump up the tempo slightly, sometimes maybe 5 beats a minute, depending. And continue the process until you reach your threshold. Your threshold will be the place where, if you're working on double strokes, for example, let's say your double strokes are at 100 beats a minute, and that feels really comfortable to you. Well, bump up the tempo. Eventually, let's say you get to 120 at this point. Double strokes at 120 is pretty quick. If you're not using the right technique, your body will show that. You'll start to feel fatigues in your forearms. Your hands will cramp up. You might get tired. You might feel very tight. Your shoulders might raise. If you're experiencing these symptoms, you need to stop, back the tempo off a couple of clicks, 5 clicks, maybe whatever it takes, to where when you are playing it, you're not feeling those things. You always want to keep yourself on the edge of what is comfortable to uncomfortable. If it's very uncomfortable or even painful, stop, come back. However, if you continue this process, one, you'll reinforce that thing that struggles. You'll get better at it. It'll get quicker. And you'll also push the threshold further and further down the line. So when you come back to it the next day, maybe you start at 110 beats a minute rather than just 100. And maybe you get to 120 that time, or even 123. And that will eventually keep going, and you'll get better. So this is the warm up and review. It's no longer than 10 minutes, and I like to break it up into 2 5-minute sections. This will be really helpful. By this point, your brain should be right inside, ready to go, to feel like you're ready to dive into your main focus. Your main focus should be 20 to 30 minutes long, depending on how much time you have allotted to practice. But if you have the time, 20 to 30 minutes is a great chunk. There's a lot of science behind it. You can go look that up. I'm just a percussion instructor, but I've learned that between 20 and 30 minutes, that's where the brain's capacity kind of shuts down after that when you're engaged in one thing for that long a time. So in the main focus, you want to learn something you can't do. This is not time for you to just go ham on a drum set or just play notes around on a mallet instrument. This is, you want to try and fix something or learn something you don't know how to do. Here's a couple of examples. Grooves, independence, sight reading, learning new tunes or sections of tunes, rudiments, world rhythms, dynamic or accent control, scales or 4-mallet permutations. These are just some examples. You can apply them to any instrument, but the idea is you're learning something you can't do. And trust me, if you're learning something you can't do and you're free of distractions, within 20 to 30 minutes, I guarantee you'll be better than you were when you started. That is a fact. If somehow that doesn't happen to you, come to me and I'll refund your money or something. We'll talk about it. So like I said here, 20 to 30 minutes max. This is a very important. Said you can repeat this process. You can repeat this process as often as you'd like, but the brain really can only take in and engage in this one idea for a small amount of time, 20 to 30 minutes. So if you want to continue learning a groove longer than 30 minutes, do so, but take a break. The greatest performers, athletes, musicians on the planet regularly take breaks, and they regularly engage in this process undistracted on a regular basis. Okay? 20 to 30 minutes. It's totally doable. And when you set a timer, it flies by and you're going to want to do more, but stand up, go get a drink of water, come back, and you'll be ready to roll again. You don't necessarily have to go through the warm-up again unless you change instruments, but this might be really helpful. And the last part of your practice routine that is arguably the most important is the creative side. Now, creative means a lot to a lot of people, so let me be clear. It's only about 5 to 10 minutes long, depending how much time you have. It always comes at the end for me. As long as it happens at some point in your routine, I think it's good. But I like it at the end. So the goal of this is to express yourself freely within a set of rules. Within a set of rules, not just freely like, oh, I'm playing. Rules. Here's an example of some rules, depending on the instrument. So solo in a particular subdivision, maybe you want to pick 16th notes. And maybe you're on a snare drum and you're like, I want to get better going hand to hand. So you're just using 16th notes and you're going between singles and doubles and paradiddles and double paradiddles. But the 16th note rate doesn't stop. You keep that going. And so that way you don't get distracted by all the different possibilities of rhythm. All right, so that's a rule. Number 2, an example would be to play over top of an ostinato. So what that means is maybe if you're playing the drum set and you have the bass drum beating quarter notes, like what we call 4 on the floor. And maybe that is your constant that can never change. And then maybe your hands can play anything they'd like. But the rule is the foot must remain. If the foot starts doing something it's not supposed to, you need to stop and start over and stick to the rule. Maybe play a figure, repeat a figure. I do this with my students on drum set. I think it's killer. You can play a measure of music and then try and repeat verbatim another measure of music, or repeat that measure again. So you play a measure, repeat it. It's a lot harder than it seems. You want to get really creative out of the gate, but then you realize very quickly, oh, I didn't quite remember everything I just played. So this is to help keep you engaged and very mindful of what you're playing. You can't just be doing stuff. It needs to be deliberate. It's practice, not a jam session. Here's some more ideas. Express yourself freely in the creative side is listen to new music. So, if you don't know a lot of music, if you're not really versed, or maybe you're younger and you're saying to yourself, well, I don't really know a lot of music, period. I don't know any artists. Come to us. There's always something we can give you. There's always music to explore that, there's a ton of stuff out there. And, I'm finding new music every day. There's a lot to keep up with. It's impossible to keep up with. But I even have students bring me things I've never heard before. And I'm like, wow, that's killer. We'll use that. Or you can play along with your favorite music that you already know. So if you're into Zeppelin or something, jam along to some music. Go listen to those records. Go become, sit inside the reasons you decided to learn the instrument in the first place. And I think that's what gets us to the last point, is to just stay inspired. So with our practice routine, the goal is to get better, But as a musician, the idea is to remain inspired, be creative, and put that out to the world, or even if it's just for yourself personally. If you do these few things deliberately to a timer, you will be better at the end of your practice session than you were when you started it. I guarantee it. So try it at home. I do it regularly. I always set timers. I'm always using a metronome, and I'm always journaling. If I were to show you, I didn't bring it with me today, but it is at my house. I have a journal of my own things that I practice with my instructor. There's none of us are too good for a journal, and it helps you remember, oh, I worked on that. Well, go back and look at your progress and see, if you return to an idea, see how it is these days, and jot it down. It's helpful. All of you should have a journal, and all of you at home trying to figure out what to practice, I guarantee if you open that journal, there looks to be something in there you could practice. So be mindful. Now, all of these add up to about 40 to 50 minutes of practice routine time. If you don't have 40 to 50 minutes, let's just say you have 20 minutes and you only have 20 minutes every other day, then what you're going to do is take the same concept and shrink the times. So maybe do a 2.5 minute warm-up review, which will go by very quickly, and then maybe a 15-minute main focus, and then maybe 2.5, 3-minute creative thing. The meat and potatoes, the main focus should be the longest part of your practice session. I hope this helps. Feel free to screenshot these as I was holding them up so you don't have to continuously listen to me talk. And my voice, it's all, nobody wants to hear that any more than they have to. All this can be applied to any instrument that you've seen in this studio or any instrument that you've ever come across. In fact, it can be applied to any sport you ever play, soccer, baseball. It's all the same kind of ideas and concepts. I think that's all I have for you now. Please reach out to me if you have any questions or if you need some help kind of organizing your own schedule. But this is extremely important to me, that we have a routine, that you get better as you play your instrument. Every time you come to it, you're getting better. So that when you go to the stage or when you go to perform, the things that you play are intuitive and they are practiced and rehearsed, and you're very comfortable with it. You're never wanting to be on stage like thinking, oh, is this a flam paradiddle? I need to do a double stroke here. No, we want things to be so fluid they come out intuitively. I hope this helps. I hope everybody's safe at home. Can't wait to see you all again in the near future. Peace.